Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support over the years. It is greatly appreciated. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We are making our way through the Guardian cards in the Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion. We are joined by special guest Veronica. This is part 2, and we have another 4 cards to take a look at. The first card is Wolf Mask. It is a 1-cost asset with a combat and agility skill icon, item, charm, and mask trait. Limit 1 mask per investigator. Uses 2 offerings. Replenish one of these offerings after you engage an enemy. As a free triggered ability, you can spend 1 offering. You get +2 combat or +2 agility for this skill test. Limit once per test. Now, when FFG announced the Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion, they spoiled one of the masks, that being the Sparrow Mask for survivors, and that card gave me a little bit of trepidation because these masks are basically sort of the equivalent of the level 4 talents that they released for like physical training and all that. These are basically doing the same sort of thing at level 0. And I think overall the masks are among the best cards in the set. I sort of feel like the Wolf Mask is on the weaker side simply because you sometimes don't need combat and agility.
Right.
But by weaker, I don't mean bad by any stretch of the imagination.
Compared to the other masks.
Yeah, compared to the other masks, I think it's slightly weaker, but overall I think the masks are really, really strong.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've basically said so far. Also, thank you for not kicking me off after doing the first set of 4 cards. I was slightly worried that we were going to go through all the trouble and then just gonna like, no, this wasn't it. Veronica is not a good match. Let's
yeah, you failed. Yeah,
swing and a miss. So no, of course not. But I think that saying that these are the same as the level 4 talents, I don't agree with, because I think that the level 4 talents are generally slightly underrated and much better than they read. But I don't agree with the idea that they are of a similar power level, and the lack of the 4 XP cost is extremely noticeable. Because, simply put, they are of an equivalent power level while being so much cheaper to put into your deck. I have to double check the list, but spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the other videos yet, this is going to be the best Guardian card of the set for me, because it does stuff. It is a card that I'm excited to include in my decks, and I'm personally also kind of big on giving Guardians agility. I think Guardians having agility as a weak stat makes sense thematically and works as a like deck building thing and all that stuff, but I also think that it is interesting to see how the faction evolves when you're giving them this other stat to concern themselves with. So yeah, I'm just in general, I'm kind of hyped with this card, and I think that the on-engage trigger, at least in multiplayer, is pretty doable. My experience is that it is pretty reasonable for the Guardian to be engaging basically any enemy they want to contend with, at which point this is just whenever you're fighting an enemy for the first time, you just get that +2. Because, yeah, an enemy spawns engage with you, this triggers, you get a +2, you swing at them. Enemy engage with somebody else, you engage them, you swing at them +2. Last video, we were talking a lot about the Riot Whistle. This is a card that makes me want to put Riot Whistle in more decks, just because,
true. Yeah.
There's a synergy there. I'm going to be engaging more enemies off of my teammates, not just because I don't want to hit them in the face, because honestly I don't really care, but more so because I want to get that +2.
Yeah, this thing's pretty. I think one thing I also like about this thing is that it gets better. It seems like it gets better in True Solo, because every enemy that hits the board, you're gonna end up engaging it. We're like 4-player, yeah. You know, like you don't have as much control over how often this is going to get recharged, and you don't always want to spend an action engaging a thing. If you had Riot Whistle, that's different. So I think the real question with Wolf Mask is, are you going to play 1 copy or 2? That's the real question.
So, it is, and this is the faction where that question is the most interesting, because
they don't have lots of card draw, right?
Guardian has the worst draw, so it's unlikely that you're going to find it just naturally. If I'm a dedicated fighter, I think I'm leaning yes, I will play 2 copies, but it's like, it's really close.
Yeah.
It depends a lot on what the rest of my deck is doing, I guess, is
Yeah.
the easy answer.
Yeah, I can see running like one copy if you're doing like glories. Or actually, here's another way to look at it. What if you because it's an item, you could do like you start with 2 copies, then you upgrade one of them into like a backpack level 2.
Sorry, sorry to cut you off, but that's pretty huge. This versus the tarot cards from the Circle and Done expansion. The fact that this is an
Yeah.
item and synergizes with so many of the item cards, because we talked about last video. We talked about remind me the
Token?
the token. Yeah, it's just a token. The fact that that's an item doesn't, I think, really change my evaluation of the card, but it is relevant that like you can sharpener's catalog for it. You can find it with backpack, right? The fact that it is an item does come up from time to time, and I just think that this is again a situation where it being an item is just pure upside.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. 'Cause you can like find it faster. Plus the fact that it costs 1 means you can kind of like it could be your third asset in your stick to the plan ever vigilant opener. Which is kind of nice because because sometimes you want to play your ever vigilant, you get like 2 big assets, but then you run out of money, for a third one. At least this one's 0 when you do your opener. So that makes it like really easy to include. I don't know, this is all upside, right? Right, Cameron?
It's going to be awfully hard for Guardians to leave this card out of their decks. It's interesting because in the couple of decks I've tested when I was playing with Zoe, I think I ended up going with a different mask. It might have been the cat mask, simply because I wanted the combat and willpower. And when I built Lily, I went with the cat mask because I wanted the willpower and combat as well. And I think in the Zoe deck, I was sort of tempted by the mouse mask as well, because I was concerned that I'd be having trouble gathering clues. And so having +2 intellect basically for just revealing a location, which you're going to do a ton in solo anyway, was hard to ignore. So I think in sort of true solo, like I do agree with you, Veronica, that having access to agility in Guardian can be huge, because there are those times where you don't want to actually fight the thing, and it's just not worth your time to fight the thing, because it's going to take up either so many actions or so many resources that you're better off just evading it and moving on. That having access to that agility is useful. I think perhaps my perspective on the card is just flavored a bit by just, when I'm in solo, having access to both combat and agility is often I'm looking for either willpower or intellect instead.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think I'm personally someone who has a very big survivor brain and not a very guardian brain. So agility is much higher in my like internal evaluation than I think it is for a lot of people. And I'm just thinking of like you hit a treachery or you hit anything really, and it's just one of those. I don't know if it's actually accurate the way that in my head that math goes, but it's just like I like the idea that somebody at my location has a random unexpected courage alike effect, and I have this mask out. Suddenly, any agility 3 test that comes up, I can probably be fine. And because like the Frozen in Fear and the card that you're really scared of, those don't test whatchamacallit, those don't test agility, they test willpower. But still, there are treacheries that test agility, and
Snake
is there
bite.
yeah, but I'm not counting on this to save me from snakebite. I was thinking more. There's a treachery is it Black Star's Rise, where I think you lose actions or maybe cards out of hand. It's like an agility 3 test, and then depending on what agenda it is, I'm trying to think of agility tests that aren't just
I know
take
what you
1 point of
mean.
damage.
There's some that come up. Like I think isn't there an agility test in Essex County Express that if you fail it, you take trauma?
I'm pretty sure you're correct, yeah. And there's also just, I think, isn't there one in Essex where if you fail the test, you can't move that turn?
Oh.
Which can be potentially worse than taking 1 trauma, if I'm honest.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they come up. And I think that's what we're getting at is agility tests do come up, and it's nice to. And what I think was nice is because there's 2 offerings on there. Like if you have to deal with like a treachery that that costs an offering, you've still got that other offering to work with for fighting. Yeah, and then that you might be down to, you might be bouncing between 1 and 0 offerings for the rest of the game, but that's probably okay. Because it sounds like what you do is you use one offering to attack the enemy and you kill it, and then another enemy comes up, you recharge it, then you use it again. So like being at one offering for the fight seems like it's doable. So you have that extra offering there just for emergencies, like boss monsters or agility tests. So it's all upside is what we're getting at. Yeah, the only downside is one copy or two.
How do we rate this one?
Elder Sign.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of is like it's one of those cards where you gotta be looking for reasons to not have this in your deck. Yeah.
I was like tempted by potentially making this a +1, but I just think that the value is so good.
It kind
this
of is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, this gets an Elder Sign for me as well. I may consider it the weakest of the masks, but that's not saying a whole lot. They're all really strong, and just having access to something that's constantly replenishing your offerings, especially in solo where you don't actually have to do anything, you just have to play the game, and this thing is just going to give you +2 bonuses left, right, and center is really, really good. The next card we're going to talk about is Guided by Faith. It is a 2-cost event with a willpower and intellect skill icon, spirit and bless trait. Investigate, you may use willpower instead of intellect for this investigation. Before revealing chaos tokens for this test, add 2 bless tokens to the chaos bag. If a bless or elder sign token is revealed during this skill test, discover 1 additional clue at your location. This is one of the cards that we got to spoil as part of Great Old Ones Gaming. I didn't really like it much then. I have had a chance to play it since, and unfortunately my opinion of it is slowly getting worse with each play. I really wanted to give this one a fair shake, but I think of all of the cards that add bless tokens that are released in the Guardian pool, this is the weakest one of the bunch. Even if you're trying to fish for an additional clue with it, I did some math, and even if the bag is full, you have less than a 50% chance of getting that additional clue. I kind of wish that they had changed the text to say, if there were like 10 bless tokens in the bag, you automatically get the clue. You don't have to draw a bless token. I feel like, because I know, like, I filled the bag, I had 10 bless tokens, I played this, and then nothing. It just feels bad. Like, you've done all this work and you don't get anything out of it.
So what I see here when I read this thing is actually a bad version of Read the Signs. Because Read the Signs is you pay 2, you investigate, you have a better chance of succeeding with Read the Signs, and you get 2 clues. And this one I see like, all right, you just changed the stat, so you're getting like 1 or 2, on top. I'm thinking like a Zoe, right? You get to use your willpower instead of your intellect. Okay, so you get 1 clue for the most part. Just assume you're gonna get 1. And then in that case, I look at it as like a bad keep faith. So it's like, given that I'm investigating, right? I spend an action to investigate, I spend 2 resources, and I put 2 tokens in the bag instead of keep faith, where you can put 4 tokens in the bag. If it were like 3 bless, I could see this being pretty decent as like an alternative to keep faith. For people who aren't survivor and can't take keep faith. Yeah, but a lot of the people who would want to, spend an event to do investigation and use their willpower, they have access to Read the Signs, which I think is just way better because you always get 2 clues and you double up. Oh, if this let you add your willpower to your intellect and you only got 1 clue, I can see a use for this. That might actually be pretty decent. Yeah.
So I indeed also was going to make a comparison between Read the Signs and Keep Fate, because I think that the fact that this adds 2 bless tokens is easy to overlook, but that is part of why the card costs what it costs, I think.
Yeah.
I'm glad we get to talk about it before we have to give our ratings, because I really did not know where this card goes, and I still don't really know. It's such a hard card, I think, to evaluate, because you say, if you get 1 clue, but the thing is that if you are a guardian who's playing this, then using willpower instead of intellect still doesn't guarantee that you're going to pass a test, especially on a more
Exactly.
difficult location. But on the other
Yeah.
hand, if you have the back stuff with bless tokens and you pull even a single bless token, now you're pretty likely to pass. So is that then good enough? So in the previous video, we talked about Olaf McBride when we were talking about the katana. This is the card that I was thinking about when we're talking about Olaf McBride. But as you say, right of the redesigns exists, and redesigns is quite a bit better than this at getting clues, but not better at this than adding blast tokens in the bag. So how badly do you want those blast tokens in the bag? But I think, as you say, Cameron, the likelihood of you getting a blast token on any random test, even with 10 blasts in the bag, is less than 50% because there's just usually 16, 18 tokens in the bag. But if you're Olafing, I think that the odds do go up pretty significantly. But then the question becomes, like, how good is Olive if you're not playing this card, and is it worth it to include Olive as your ally if you're only doing this card? So it becomes this very complicated, like, question of the balancing point for a card that I don't think is that impressive at the end of it. Like, getting 2 clues for 2 resources, I can just play Scene of the Crime. And I can.
That's true. That's true.
We talked about Ancestral Token. That is the card I want to be adding blast tokens to my bag. I want to place. I want to draw an enemy, place Scene of the Crime to get 2 clues, and then just beat up the enemy to add 3 blast tokens to the bag. That is the pattern I want to do with Guardian. I don't necessarily want to play this. Now I have a question. So first of all, I want to acknowledge this is blessed on it. Kohaku can take blessed. Kohaku can guarantee pulling a bless with his signature. Kohaku basically has a Favor of the Sun as a signature, infinite.
Yeah.
I see you nodding cautiously. As far as I've seen it, that's basically how that card plays. And at that point, I think this card is worth playing. I think this is pretty nice if you are always getting the 2 bless, and he also really appreciates getting the willpower, at least depending on his build. Often he will. And the other thing is, this is Spirit access. I don't remember who takes Spirit outside of Calvin. Calvin, I don't think plays this. Hank. Hank gets Spirit. Does Hank play this? If you're playing Hank in a bless, I'm not sure.
So,
and the other one that is a complete oddball that I was thinking about yesterday, does Daniela want this? Because Daniela actually upgrades into Survivor. Survivor is the other like big bless faction, so I could see Survivor or Daniela bless could be a deck. Daniela has intellect of 1, if I'm not mistaken, and has
it's like a major boost
4.
for her.
Yeah, it's a major boost for her. It's like, even if she's only getting 1 clue of it, I don't hate this in Daniela, and it doesn't take up one of her off-class slots. Again, this card is really mediocre.
Really niche.
It has a few spots where I could see it like being an include.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those cards that like is almost there in several ways. Like, if it was you can add your willpower to your intellect, then it would be serviceable. If it was 3 bless tokens, then it would be serviceable. The art though is great. Look at that. Look at that. That is Mateo like on a boat. Look at that hat. Yeah, that's gotta be. Look, that's gotta be Mateo. Because look at that. He's on a boat and he's got his like Italian.
He's in Florida. He's doing the Carnival side scenario for sure.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's Mateo. It's like Mateo in a hat. Yeah, and the hat looks like it's like only half a hat. It looks like it has no back. If you look at that hat, it looks like it's only the helmet. It's only the first half of the hat, and then the back of it is gone. So yeah, probably Carnival, because this is like it's like a mask, and he's gonna put the rest of the mask on later, and then it's all gonna be one piece. And he's gonna like put it on and off. So this is Mateo going to the Carnival.
Well, I guess we found where you play this, which is if you're playing Mateo at the Carnival, you are now obliged to include this.
But
otherwise,
the artwork alone, yeah.
Otherwise, maybe don't.
How would we rate this one?
Elder Thing. I'm just shooting my shot here. I know these numbers. No, I think Elder Thing makes a lot of sense to me. Again, it's not a card that, even in the places where I think it's good, I don't think it's that good. But also, I don't think it is so bad that I can't see playing it.
Oh man, I'm gonna go with Tentacle, because I just don't see how this makes your 30 cards. Like, by the time you work at it and you build your deck up and you got all the alternatives in there that actually get the thing done. It's like, how do you have room for something like this? I mean, this could be a Dynamite Blast instead.
I'm going to go
Yeah, but
Elder Thing
Dynamite-
as well. I think
Okay.
I kind of like this thing when I draw it early, because it sort of, you get a couple blessed tokens, you get a clue if you're using your willpower instead of intellect, which is good for some investigators. It falls so short when you draw it late, because it's when I have the bag filled with tokens, I want that extra clue if I'm playing this. And the fact that you don't get it, really, I hate that. I just hate playing this card and knowing that, I still don't have a better than a 50% chance of getting an extra clue out of it. At which point I'm like, why do I want to waste the resources on this? I'm not going to get, you're not getting blessed tokens if the bag is full, and you're not going to get the additional, chances are you're not going to get the additional clue. So yeah, I was hoping I could rate this a 0, but yeah, it's really slipped down in play for me, and it may just slip out of my decks altogether here. Maybe Kohaku can make some use of it, because if he can guarantee himself a blessed token, well.
So what you're saying
Great.
is this is actually the Kohaku set, these Guardian cards.
Well, it's certainly not Wilson's set, so it's got to be for somebody.
It's true. It's certainly not Wilson. Yeah.
I mean, you say that, but unfortunately, I don't think that's necessarily true. Some cards are for nobody.
Yeah, leftovers from Innsmouth, probably. Yeah.
The next card we're going to talk about is Absolution. It is an event with a cost of X. It has 2 willpower skill icons, the spell and bless trait. Reveal 3 random tokens from the Chaos Bag, along with X additional tokens. For each non-symbol token revealed, add 1 blessed token to the Chaos Bag. For each blessed token revealed, heal 1 horror from an investigator or ally asset at your location. I was all prepared to dismiss this card, and then I played it, and it's actually performed pretty well for me. For free, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get 3 blessed tokens at the start of the game, and then I have played it late in the game when the token bag has been full, and I've managed to heal a couple times, and that has been enough to get me through. So it's done better than I thought it would.
So I assumed that the math on this, because I'm not amazing at math, but I kind of know it, that my average was going to be, if you reveal 3 tokens, you're going to get 2 blesses, because I think most bags are about 2/3 numbers to 1/3, 1/3 symbols. At which point, I mean, obviously, comparing every card to Keep Fate is not a great way to go around evaluating blessed effects, but also, it's hard to ignore that card hovering over this. But I also am higher on healing now than I was several cycles ago, and I think that the horror heal on this is not just flavor text; it is meaningful. Healing allies is relevant.
Yep.
If you are Carolyn, this is potentially resources. If you're, I think Carolyn.
No, that's funny, Carolyn, because you could hit, you could give out the resources. Yeah,
you can hit multiple people. It's kind of funny as in Carolyn. I think the part that I kind of struggle with is Guardians are not known for having a lot of money, and this is an X-costed card. How likely am I to actually get full value out of this card? And I don't have an answer to that question, which is kind of the big thing. So I'm at a spot where I'm happy to hear that this card has been performing better than it reads, because I haven't gotten a chance to play this yet, or see this played rather. I'm not the one playing Sister Mary, so I was expecting the Sister Mary player to play this, but I don't think it made the cut. And as it sits, I'm pretty low on this, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if I actually got to play it, that it actually did quite well. And there is this part of if you try to overcompensate and really put in a lot of money into your Guardian decks just to make sure that you always have your money, the fact that this is potentially a payoff for that is kind of nice, where it does just kind of become a release valve that is actually worth something. Because blessed tokens are good. You need something else to do with them, but yeah.
Yeah, the fact that X is uncapped is actually really interesting because like my point of view on this is that okay, early on you don't have as a guardian, early on you're poor. And even then, like when X is 0, that's not bad. You end up with like 2 blesses. Maybe you'll heal a horror if you're like in the first couple of turns in the game. But then later on, when you've got everything on the table, you just pile on the resources, and then you can just spend all your money and spend 10 resources, for example, and then you give out a bunch of healing and you add more blesses and everything's great. Yeah, I kind of like this actually. And one thing that's also really like key about this card actually is the fact that it has 2 willpower icons. It has matching icons. Man, this happens like quite a bit in Arkham Horror. Is compare this to Guided by Faith. So what often happens, this happens a lot in Arkham Horror, is you end up with this card that's like very specific and it's very tweaked for like a very ideal case, like Guided by Faith. Guided by Faith, it seems like it's balanced for, okay, I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna get an additional +2 on my intellect test. And then I'm gonna get a bless because I'm obviously gonna get a bless because that's how they balance the card, and it's gonna discover 2 clues. Wow, yeah, it sounds amazing. And then of course the icons suck. And then you get Absolution, which just like kind of generally works. You just play it, it does the thing, and it works. And then it's got 2 matching icons, and it's great. Like remember when we were doing Carcosa, Cameron, we were talking about how awesome Ever Vigilant is. This reminds me of that, where it just does the thing, and it has matching icons, so it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, the matching icons are one of the highlights of this as well. And when you play, early, you can pay 0 for this. In fact, I've never paid for this card. I've never spent any money on this card, and it has done pretty well. So at the beginning of the game, you need a few tokens in the bag. You play this for free. Chances are you're going to get something out of it.
Yeah.
And then late game, unless you have some way of dumping your resources, I find like as the game goes on, you're in turn 9, 10, 11, your resource pool has just grown slowly because you've already played all your assets. And then, you could theoretically dump them all into this and maybe heal some, maybe get another bless token in there. Yeah.
Top off the bag and heal a bunch of horror. Yeah.
Yeah, it's done better than I thought it would, to be honest, and I haven't regretted it putting it in my deck. In fact, I think it actually won me a game because I was down. Zoe had taken some horror, and she doesn't have a lot of sanity to begin with, and I played this and healed two sanity, and that was enough to get me through the rest of the game. So,
oh man, Manfromleng talking up a healing card. That's a rare day. That is a rare.
I'm all about
occasion.
Positivity now. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf and just be positive about the new set. So
there's one thing we got to evaluate first before we rate this: is what is going on with this guy? He's crying blood, right? Like what happened to him? What do you think? What do you think, Veronica? What happened to this guy?
I don't think he's crying blood, but I think is he crying blood? I think he just got roughed up.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any bruises to show for it. Like, look at this guy. He doesn't have a black eye or anything. He doesn't have any cuts or scrapes. He's just bleeding from his tear duct.
Maybe it's not his blood.
Could be. Yeah, could be. The splatter is very localized. I gotta say, it's just that one streak. Going to his shirt. Yeah.
In that case, he took a lot of horror because he said Hastur a number of times.
Yep, that's it. He's bleeding from his eyes, but only one eye. Yeah, that's it.
He's
okay.
He's praying in the hope of getting some horror healing, which is what you do.
Oh, perfect. Yep, this is it. This is actually a Carcosa card. Yep, makes sense. Yep, we got it. We solved it.
I think for rating, I'm going to give this one a 0. Not sure it hits +1 for me. I think it is one of the better of the bless cards in the Guardian set. But I mean, I gave Guided by Faith an elder thing, and maybe it should be an auto fail. But yeah, I do like this one. I think it's a 0.
I could agree with 0. It does the thing. It does what you want it to do. And it works at like various phases of the game, and you can dial X as you need it, and it provides 2 willpower icons. So like it can overlap and take over a gut slot if you want it to. And I'm a big fan of guts. So yeah, I'm gonna say 0. In fact, I'll even go so far to say if you were making a deck and you put Guided by Faith in your deck for some reason, throw it out, replace them with Absolution, deck gets better.
I mean, I agree with you on that, but that's not because this card is so great. But yes, I will. I will join you on the 0. I also just had this mental image of you have a blessed token sealed on Rite of Sanctification, which is the discount card. You play
Oh, that's hilarious.
Absolution for X2, discounted for 2 to make put the best back in, and then you try to pull that blessed token again to get a horror heal. Like the package works. The package works is kind of what I'm trying to get at. So yeah, I'm it's not the best card they've ever printed, but yeah, 0 sounds good.
The next card we're going to talk about is Hold Up. It's a 1-cost event with a combat and agility skill icon, tactic, and trick trait parlay. Choose an enemy at your location and an item asset in your hand. Perform a fight action against the chosen enemy. If you succeed, instead of dealing damage, play the chosen asset, reducing its cost by each point you succeeded by. This was another one of the cards that we got to spoil as part of Great Old Ones Gaming. I didn't like it then and don't like it now.
What did you do? You definitely, you didn't get blacklisted by FFG, but they definitely
graylisted.
I think they just went down the list and they're like, yeah, we did get, Hank Sampson was the other one. So that was, they did throw us a good one there.
They had to compensate there, yeah. No, I was hoping, this is the one part where I'm regretting not being on video, because you couldn't see my face slowly descending into the palm of my hand as you kept reading the card, and I just went, there are so many words in this card, and the end result is, to be clear, I don't like Emergency Cash as a card very much. I think it is inflexible, it is not great at what it does. If I see you put Hold Up in your deck, I'm going to hand you one of my copies of Emergency Cash, tell you, put this in your deck will be better. This card is... in order to play this card, you need to have an enemy at your location and an item in your hand that you want to play. The enemy needs to not have a very high fight value, because you need to succeed by the amount that you... if this card said, perform a fight action if you succeed, play the chosen asset ignoring its cost, you didn't have to succeed by clause, I still think this card would be bad, but at least at that point I might consider putting it in a deck if I'm playing all the super high expensive firearms out of Guardian. The fact that you have to succeed by is just insulting to me. It's there is no Guardian in the game that wants to hold their weapon in their hand for a long time and then play this. There is one Investigator who may want to play this, and that is Tony Morgan. Tony doesn't like taking attacks. Tony really hates taking attacks. If you play this card, you get to play your weapon without taking attack of opportunity, and if I'm not mistaken, with the current sleight of hand taboo, he can't sleight of hand in his guns because they're not a leveled card.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But still, just play sleight of hand in Tony. But also, that is, I was desperately looking for a place where this card is better than a combat and agility icon, and that is the place that I found. And I don't think it's very good, but he has 5 combats, so he might do a thing. He might succeed by a lot. He might play it, and he doesn't like taking attack of opportunity very much. So getting to play your weapon while being engaged with the enemy. We haven't even mentioned Alessandra yet, and I think there's a very good reason for that. Is that this is not a card you want to play in Alessandra either.
It seems like a card for it's designed for Alessandra, but it's in Wilson Richards' pool, and Wilson doesn't want this because his combat's only 3. So it's oh god, man, let me count the ways. Okay, so it feels very roguey. It's like someone was designing this card and they were like, what if we took I'll Take That from Scarlet Keys for Rogue, and then we made a version, and we ran out of space in the Rogue pool. So we put it in Guardian for the hell of it, but then it's a Guardian card, so we have to make it terrible. So, and then this is what we got.
The problem is they did that, and then they kept the succeed by text that they meant for the Rogue. So that's the
it's
just
kept the succeed by.
Yeah. So I don't know, Cameron, if you want to add anything, because otherwise I have a question when we're going to evaluate the rankings. Like, I feel like this card is deeply cursed, and so I kind of want to give it the curse rating, just because like this this card needs a taboo so badly. Maybe
Yeah.
this is the Unchained card. If you have this card in your deck at the end of the scenario, you get a point of experience. Like it's almost that bad.
What if it said, instead of parlay, what if it said fight? Right? You fight an enemy, you punch it for 1 damage, and you get to play an item. What if it was that?
It's still unplayably bad.
Yeah, but at least it like actually deals a damage. You know, at that point.
Yeah, but I don't want to deal 1 damage out of Guardian. I can do 1 damage.
Yeah,
No,
that's
but
true.
like unironically, like I have beat cups and,
Yeah.
and card dogs and other good ways of dealing 1 point of damage. I want, if I'm playing this card in Guardian, I want it for the economy effect. But the economy effect on this card is the hardest part of the card to get access to, because you need to succeed by. And unless I'm misremembering how the ruling on this came down, you can't even use this to fight with an asset you control. Like you have to it has to be a basic fight action.
It says a fight action. It doesn't say
Yeah,
basic.
it's not a fight action. Like it's it's.
No,
I don't remember.
I think it's a basic fight action.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Because if it was, because I was just thinking, like, it says a fight action, so it's like, can I use any fight action? Can I use my katana? You know, and then because like that. Okay, the fact that if it was any fight action, like any weapon, that would explain why you can't deal any damage with it. Because if it was just because if it was just a basic fight action, there's like no reason to prevent it from dealing any damage. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I do, and also, but also, even the problem is that if I already have the weapon in play that I want to hurt the enemy with, why am I playing another item? Like, what's the item that I'm so desperate to play?
You never know. You never know. You're cleaning. You never know.
The only thing I'll say before we rate this thing is that this card seems, the intention of it is for that very rare circumstance when you are playing the Guardian and you get caught out by an enemy and you don't have said weapon out. I would just say, rather than put this card in your deck, just suck it up and take the attack of opportunity to play the weapon anyway.
And instead of playing this, play another weapon or a card that gets you out of that situation. Like if you were, instead of including this, include manual dexterity and just try that evade check.
There you go.
You're already doing way better. It's like if I get what you mean, and I think the reason why my Tony example is still like not great is obfuscation is a card, and if you're really that worried about attack of opportunity, obfuscation. Yeah, but it's a one-shot cancel attack of opportunity, one-shot. We talked about like all these effects coming together when we were talking about the Guided by Fate. This feels like a similar sort of thing where it's like it's doing multiple things at once, but it's not doing those things in a way that I think works for what the faction wants to do and how the game tends to play out. And in general, I just think Guardians are fine at taking hits. Like that is like the one thing that I will say that they are actually good at. Guardian killing monsters, you can have a lot of debates about who is the best monster killer, but like actually being a soak monster and being unable to die, that is what Guardians are great at. And so the fact that you can cancel one attack with this, it's like, if I want that, then I'll play Dodge. Dodge is a better card than this, and Dodge is pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, that's kind of true. You can compare it to Dodge. So I think what I would say is if you take your Sharpie marker and you just scratch out the instead of dealing damage part, then I think you might have something there. Because I can see a card where like you shoot your gun, you do any sort of fight action, you keep your damage going, and then you also get an item out at the same time. Like, all right, I could understand that working, because then it's moving at the same rate as like, I'll take that, and I'm like, I could see that working out.
If I'm taking my Sharpie to this card, then I'm scratching out the for each point you succeed by it, and I'm writing down ignoring all costs, because I think at that point, like, unironically,
I see what you mean.
think that is a fine. Because you still need to do a test. You could still draw autofill and fill. I don't think this like breaks cards like Lightning Gun or Flamethrower by letting you put them into play for free. Like I am a little bit of a amateur game designer, and I feel like ignoring all costs is a dangerous clause to have on any card. But if you wanted to fix this card, I think that's where you're looking to change this card, is because I feel also thematically, I feel like the whole intent of turning the damage back on is like, no, you're holding somebody up. You're not actually shooting them. You're just going like hands in the air. I'm taking your stuff. And I feel
at that case, it's being nerfed by flavor, which happens from time to time in Arkham Horror.
no, but I think like, I don't want this card to help me or to let me do the damage because I don't have a problem with quote unquote wasting an action on an attack that doesn't do any damage if that action is actually like giving me a free play action, which is essentially refunding itself and giving me a discount. Also, keep in mind, this card costs 1 to play. This card is not free. In order for this card to be like emergency cash or rather engage the soul levels of efficiency, you need to succeed by 3 on a fight test without your good weapon already being in play because it's what you're trying to play. Also, your weapon can't cost too much because if you're trying to play a machete with this and you somehow end up succeeding by 5, those other 2 resources, the other 2 discounts doesn't do anything. And like, I have looked at this card so much trying to find a way to like do anything that seems even remotely broken, and I can't for the life of me find why this card has so many like restrictions and drawbacks and Can we move on? Sorry.
Well, we got one more important thing. What is going on in this? No, we gotta talk about this. What is actually going on in this artwork? The artwork. Is the guy in the artwork, is he being held up or is he doing the holding up?
No, he's doing the holding up, and he's the kind of person who puts hold up in his Arkham decks and is then complaining about the fact that he's having so much difficulty with the scenario.
Yeah, look at that. What do you think, Cameron? Like, you could say he's being held up, that there's someone behind him who's holding him up, but because look at that expression. That's the expression of someone who's like being caught out, right?
Yeah, I feel like he's doing the hold up, but he's like holding up some sort of mythos entity, which, I mean, that's a thematic fail, right? It's just like, okay, there's a Night Gaunt in front of me. It's just like, stick him up. It's just like, what are you doing, man? Like,
yeah, it also, I'm getting vibes like the opening of Resident Evil 2 Remake, where like a cop is at a convenience store and he's trying to handcuff something, and then what he doesn't know is that thing is a zombie and is about to bite him. This is the look on that guy's face when he realized that thing is going for his throat, and I think that's what's happening here. Is he's holding up something that looked human? It's like, oh yeah, this guy by the train yard. I'm just gonna shake him down for his wallet, and then it turns out it's actually like this giant tentacle monster that's about to eat him. So if you don't like being eaten by tentacle monsters, then don't put this in your deck.
Yeah. So Veronica gave this a curse token, probably because it needs to be mutated to make it actually do something useful.
For the record, I'm giving this an autofill because even if it gets mutated in the way that I described, I'm still not excited about this card. I just think it's no longer a binder fodder. It is potentially playable at that point. I think this is an autofill.
It's the same tentacles that are obviously in like out in foreground. The guy is seeing the tentacle token. It's almost as if Rob Lasky, the artist there, was like, I'm drawing this card and I just know that Manfromleng is going to give this a tentacle token. So why don't I and he just channels it into this guy's face. Heck, we could even use this as like, this looks like it should be a sticker on a Discord for like bad cards. This guy. You look at it, you see, oh, this is terrible. Yeah, so it serves its purpose as like a sticker for Discord. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think we're ending off this batch of cards with a big auto fail across the board for Hold Up. That's going to do it for our look at the second batch of Guardian cards in the Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion. Let us know in the comments down below what you think. Have you had any experience playing these cards? We'd love to hear about it. Any final thoughts?
We started with Wolf Mask and we ended with Hold Up. It kind of all balances out.
Yeah. I'm looking very much forward to the next batch of cards we're talking about because we won't be talking about Hold Up anymore.
We got over the hump. Yeah, it's true. It's interesting that Wolf Mask and Hold Up have the exact same icons, like looking at them, and they're the exact same cost. Like, if you took all your holdups out of your deck and put in Wolf Masks instead, your deck gets better. And if you take out your Guided by Faiths and you put in Absolutions, your deck gets better. So I think we're seeing the paradigm here.